I'm coming to you live. It's Wednesday. People call it Hump Day, over the Hump Day, as a matter of fact. But for me, it's just the middle of the week. And it's time always to assess, to say, okay, what has happened so far, beginning with Sunday, the first day of the week, but particularly Monday and Tuesday, which represent the first two, hopefully, productive days of the week. Good morning, everybody. This is John Morrow. I'm coming to you from my, what used to be, second bedroom in our little diminutive house here in Lakeland, Florida, just a little north of downtown. This was the room that our son grew up in. When our son was born, just a month prior to that, we had moved into this house in the north end of Lakeland. When I say north, I'm just talking about, roughly 8 blocks north of the main central downtown district of Lakeland. The year was 1980. Actually, it was sometime around July the 18th that we moved into this house, my wife and I. It was a fixer-upper. And then on August the 18th, our son was born, and after 3 days, we brought him home. This room was his first nursery and then his bedroom, and became his home until he finally moved away after graduating from college and finding his own place. Now it's my office, but it's also my memory room. So here I am in Lakeland, Florida, on Wednesday morning, and it's the last day of August. It's been an exciting month. Those of you that know me know that I got a late start on being a grandfather. I remember back in 2018, in a very important year, because that was the first year that Donna and I, my wife Donna and I, had embraced a PowerWord that would become the PowerWord that would be not just our PowerWord for the year, but PowerWord for life. And that word remains and even is more deeply fixed in my personality. And I strive for it because it is a reminder to me of things that I should do and do well, but also behaviors that I should do that help me to do things well. And most importantly, even when I run into roadblocks, disappointments, and I still will sometimes fail at certain efforts, this word and its companion pieces in the mnemonic of the word give me a template, a pattern, a means whereby I can live successfully. For the next many days, by the grace of God, hopefully I'll be able to talk to you. I'll be able to share with you. Some of you will say, I got better things to do than to listen to John. Others of you will relate, and you may share this later with people. But my purpose for today is to begin by telling you that it's the last day of the month of August. And with this last day, we will come to the end of 8 full months of the calendar year that is 2022. Now think about that for just a second. It doesn't seem all that long ago, at least to myself, that we began the year. And then, lo and behold, here we come. Tomorrow is September the 1st. It falls on a Thursday. Monday, forthcoming, is Labor Day. It's always a popular holiday. For me, it's less about the labor and more about continuing to think in terms of that which I need to do every single day in order to experience success. For those of you seeing me for the first time, yes, I'm old. But old is not a bad thing. What it is I've got a lot of tread life, or a lot of life on this chassis, this vessel, this conveyance, this vehicle. But it's okay because it's been 72 years, And it has been, for the most part, a great 72 years. And I hope and pray by the grace of God, and yes, I do believe in God, that I'll have many, many more years. But whether I do or not is not the issue. The issue is, what am I going to do today? So here's the thing that I want to share with you beginning today, and I hope to be able to share with you every day going forward. Because I want you to begin to take time to think about yourself. We are all busy, extraordinarily busy people. I'll put it to you this way. Here's an example of how my life used to be. And if I'm not careful, it can, in a sense, digress or revert back into this behavior. When I was younger, I was go, 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 go. But there wasn't a whole lot of, planning put into that go, go, go. It was just randomly do this, randomly do that. Sometimes have a plan. Of course, mixed into it was a schedule that had to do with actually going to work. Work really was the thing that framed, at least for so many hours per day, how I conducted myself and did things. But when I was not doing work, I was trying to have fun. And that fun would involve any one of a myriad of things. And of course, I had a fabulous wife. And then later along would come our son on our seventh wedding anniversary, August 18th of 1980. And now we're in a house. We're at a point where we're ready to be parents, to have a home, to have the responsibilities, and to build our life around this young man, who now is my son, who just turned on August the 18th, 42. But that power word was a very, very important piece of my life beginning in 2018. It was in the latter part of 2017 that my dear friend, and yes, I'm going to tell you her name, Maggie Sabatier Smith. Maggie's a life coach, but Maggie is also a fellow follower of Jesus Christ, a disciple of Jesus Christ. I don't generally think of myself as a Christian only because sometimes I think people wear the moniker of a Christian, but they really don't give serious credence to what the term Christian actually means. For me, it means being like Christ. But to be like Christ, you have to follow Christ, and you have to study Christ, and you have to study how He is and what He did. And that means that I'm seeking to be a disciple of Christ every day. Discipleship doesn't mean I'm getting it right. Discipleship means I'm a work in progress. So back in 2018, in the first year that we had our using of this power word for living, we experienced an incredible number of amazing things. And I'll talk to you about 3. First, our son met and fell in love with and now was going to marry the woman of his dreams. Now you need to remember that in 2018, my son would turn 38 on August the 18th. However, on June the 9th of 2018, my son married, on my birthday, my 68th birthday, his forever love. Her name was Claudine. She was from the Philippines. And I will tell you, too, that in her family, the Filipino part of her is there, but what's even more obvious is the Chinese part of her, because as I've learned from talking with her, her family actually, I don't know if it was decades earlier or just, within the century, migrated from China to the Philippines to live, probably to seek a greater degree of freedom and liberty. So they have a definite Chinese heritage. And her last name, her birth name, Saitong, was a part of that Chinese heritage. But she was raised in a very, very simple, basic, and not particularly financially well-to-do situation on an island in the Philippines. And by the way, there are hundreds of islands, just as there are over 270 different dialects of the Philippine language of Tagalog. So there's just really some interesting dynamics about her. But this lady, small in stature, maybe all of 5'1", pretty as could be, sweeter than sweet. She was like an island flower. I would call her the Filipino version of a bird of paradise. The two of them just fell hard and fast for each other. And we worked and got her to the United States, helped her along with our son in getting her visa. She came, and on June the 9th of 2018, on my 68th birthday, with my wife present, and yes, with my mother, who didn't really understand fully what was going on because she was wrapped up in the throes of Alzheimer's, but Mom was still very ambulatory and very social, so she was able to be with us, and she was spending that summer with us. She got to go to the wedding of her grandson, and it was held at a beautiful, lovely church full of lovely people in Tampa. My son lived in Tampa in an apartment complex. As a matter of fact, not very far from Raymond James Stadium and the One Buck place where the Buccaneers do their training for football. But that important moment reminded me of this room here, because this is where we brought him home as an infant in 2000, well, not 2000, but in 1980, after he was born, to this then house that we had just moved into a month before. That event was special because my wife had always dreamed of him getting married, and also really wanted to be a grandma, as I wanted to be a grandfather, which brings me to the second thing that I wanted to tell you about, and that was, of course, it was on a date in mid-September that we traveled to North Georgia, to the place where I grew up. I actually was born in Chattanooga and lived there for the first, roughly almost 11 years of my life, but then my parents bought a home in the burbs, or the suburbs if you prefer, just across the Tennessee-Georgia state line. And by the way, Chattanooga rests on the Georgia state line, so the city limits is right there too. When you cross over of what is Chattanooga, you cross over into Georgia, and it ceases being Chattanooga, and it becomes another part called Rossville. Rossville I did not live in, but we lived in a community just outside of Rossville on the way to Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, which is another town down the road about 6-7 miles. And it's where the Chickamauga National Battlefield Park is at. Chickamauga was one of the battles during the American Civil War. So we brought Donald, in this particular situation, into a family place where he was born on my birthday, and Mama had the opportunity to be here with us, and we had a wonderful celebration, and I celebrated my 68th birthday. But this particular event in September was back up in the area where I'd been, where I went to high school, where I'd grown up, and where I graduated. And it was a 50-year class reunion. Nice venue, beautiful place. And we got together for a picture of all the men and then all the women and then the entire class together. As I'm standing there in the midst of this gathering, it dawned upon me that I believe I was perhaps maybe at least one of the very few people there married with children who did not have grandchildren. There's a part of you that wants to say, man, why am I not a grandfather? But it was okay. But what I want to share with you is this. 2018 also was the year that I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. And just prior to that trip in mid-September, on August the 15th, 2018, I had surgery. The process is called a prostatectomy. Yes, you've heard of a tonsillectomy. You've heard of an appendectomy. I had a prostatectomy. It was a turning point in my life. I still live with the consequences of that, but on the other hand, as I sit here before you today, just now, a little more than 4 years after that fact, I'm still cancer-free. I'm thankful for that. There are some things that have happened that have physically changed me, but it didn't matter. Yes, going through the healing process was not easy, but it didn't matter, and it didn't matter to my wife. So here you have a wedding in June, and you have a 50-year high school reunion in September, and in the middle of all that, 3 days before our wedding anniversary, I have a prostatectomy. We would go ahead and continue to spend the year and enjoy our first Christmas with our daughter-in-law. And we would continue to do the things we were doing, and my wife and I would go back to our PowerWord, and we remember that this was a part of the year that we lived, and how it had changed us we really didn't fully understand, because sometimes you don't realize the changes that take place in your life when you begin to adopt behaviors. Those changes begin to sort of manifest, but sometimes more to people that are looking at you than to yourself, but they manifest. And upon their manifestation, you begin to realize you are changing. And hopefully you're changing for the better. At least with the PowerWord, you have the opportunity. But I'm going to tell you very quickly, as I wrap up, why the mnemonic part of this PowerWord is so important. Those of you that know me know that at the end of 2018, looking back at all that happened that particular year in the life of myself and my beautiful wife, we chose that word to become our word for living. It became our word for life. That word that we had selected late in 2017 was based upon the fact that we had quit making resolutions. We didn't believe in New Year's resolutions. But we kept coming back to the word resolution, and then we began to study the fact that the root word of resolution is resolve. Many of you know this already, so I'm not preaching anything that you don't know about, and I apologize if I seem preachy. And we made the additional step with the guidance of Maggie Sabatier Smith to take each letter of the word resolve, and there are 7 letters, and look for behavioral traits based upon what we could find in the dictionary and study that would fit the kind of life that a person would resolve would have. And so with resolve, we came up with these 7 behavioral traits, and they have pretty much been fleshed out into a pretty clear pattern for me that I live. And they are my template for living. They were our template for living. Letter R stands for resilience, people with resolve. And resolve, by the way, is having a definite plan of action. Resolve is a behavior, it's an attitude. It's both a noun and it's also a verb. Much more of a verb than a noun, but the noun part of it is that I am a person of resolve. By that I mean, I'm not going to quit, I'm not going to give up, I'm not going to stop. I have a plan. I have a definite plan. That plan is, of course, plotted, but at the same time, too, it is subject to change, because as you move through life and you're making goals, and you're reaching those short-term goals as well as intermediate and hopefully long-term, you're discovering that circumstances change. You also have some failures. The failures are not defeat. The failures are a teaching moment. And I take the failures and I learn from them. And the failures also teach me where I'm trying to push open the wrong doors. And I need to go to a place where I'm pushing the right doors. As a person of faith, a follower of Jesus Christ, I also am always praying for that, what we call spiritual discernment, where I have enough of a sense of stopping thinking about myself so much and say, when I push on a door that seems to be a possible opening and it doesn't give, I step back and I say, okay, is this the right door? And I trust that God, through the Holy Spirit, will give me a sense, no, keep moving. And somebody would say, well, that seems rather random. No, it's not random at all. If you don't try something, you're not going to discover something. And you have to try, and you have to discover, even when you try and fail, that that's not what you're supposed to do. It's just like the Thomas Edison story, that Thomas never really failed in the filament search for his light bulb. He simply eliminated those things and tried them that didn't work and realized moved to the next step. He was a patient man, and this is a patience experience. So resolve is definitely a part of planning, and you have a definite plan of action, but you understand that plan of action is subject to change and there are no guarantees. But you wouldn't want to go through life without some type of a plan, but at the same time you want to live each and every single day doing the best you can today. Oh, moment, a cup of coffee, please. You see, you have to have an end in mind, but you can never let that end be so big in your life that all you do is focus on that while neglecting what's happening right here in front of you in all facets of your life. So resolve, yes, definite plan of action and a definite attitude of success. But resolve requires a daily behavior, and those behaviors are embodied in the letters R-E-S-O-L-V-E. R, for my wife and I, represents resilience. All people who are successful and all people who strive to succeed must have resolve. And resolve can be a never say die, a don't quit attitude, but resolve is also with resilience. And did I say resolve? I meant to say resilience. Resilience is that toughening up of yourself. Not getting hard in the sense of not caring what happens, but rather understanding you're on the right road. And in resolve, the resilience is the thing that you work on developing to stay continually persistent. Get up, go do it, and even if you run into a wall, stop, step back, look for a way to either go through it, find a doorway through it, go around it, go over it, or get the help that you need to beat it. But you don't quit just because you run into a wall or a roadblock. That is resilience. And also, followed by resilience, the letter R, the next letter in resolve, is engagement. And engagement is a multifaceted term, but it simply means engage the day for the opportunities that it possesses for you. Engage people for the opportunity to build relationships. And engage your faith in Jesus Christ with the determination to understand that God's got a plan for you. Do it. Be resilient and get out there and engage. Engage your challenges. Engage it all. Get things started. I like the analogy of Captain Jean-Luc Picard, because Picard would direct whoever happened to be at the helm to plot in a specific course. And when told that the course was plotted and ready, he would simply say, engage, which means push the button, let's get going. The third letter in resolve is S. And over time, the thing I have learned to love is the idea of serving. I like to serve for causes and purposes, and I do many, many types of service, but what I enjoy serving the most is people. I've learned in Toastmasters that the importance of mentoring, coaching, and serving through unselfish desire is the most important and delightful thing. Zig Ziglar said, and I may not be quoting it exactly right, but Zig said, "You will always get what you want in life as long as you help everyone else get what they want." This is an important statement, because when you approach service from an unselfish point of view, actually what you're doing is you're serving for your best results. You're not being humble, you're not being a slave, you're not being subservient. What you're doing is you're doing service and giving of your best to other people without any selfish motive behind it. And you not only do that, but you rejoice in watching them succeed. But what happens is it comes back to pay you. There's always going to be a reciprocal process. There's always going to be a payback. There's always going to be a blessing. The phrase sowing and reaping is perfectly stated for that. Whatever you sow, you're going to reap. So if you don't like the way things are going in life, go back and ask yourself, what did I do that perhaps maybe was selfish? And really, was it seeking to serve myself and myself only? Or was I doing something that was designed to serve, but also to serve others? It's a fabulous thing. So selfless service, it has a payoff that is only quantified by the fact that each and every single day when somebody sends you a thank you or a note or a reminder, or you have friends, or you've got all kinds of contacts and people that treat you with such, warmth and love. And I've seen how that's paid off, by the way, but that's for another day. So the S in resolve is for selfless service. Yes, be servant-minded, be a servant leader, but I haven't really gotten to leader yet. There's a middle letter, it's an O. We thought about that, and there are a lot of different O's. Opportunity was one that really popped in there, but actually people with resolve need to always have an organizational structure. So the O is for organization, and the better the organization, the more optimal the organization, the better the results, because you have something laid out, but that is laid out in such a way that you follow a pattern, but that pattern is also amendable, and you can adjust it as you need to. Then we move to the last three letters, and the next letter after the O is L. And I had no problem with that letter. My wife and I immediately landed on learning. We love to learn. We have always been hungry for knowledge, and we've never let our minds languish, but rather we have been learning all of our lifetimes, both the school of hard knocks as well as those things that we have intentionally tried to learn. And learning is also about observation, because there are things to see and do and observe all around you when you go out. And the best way to learn is to always have your senses connected to your immediate moment. In other words, let your five senses, see, hear, smell, taste, touch, be the thing that is helping you to learn, as well as picking up a book, getting on the computer, doing something at a particular fellowship, attending church, going to a Bible study, being involved with an organization like Toastmasters, which I've been involved with pretty much since 1985. This is a learning opportunity. And when you continue the idea of learning, there are two benefits to it. Not only are you learning more, but you are also helping your mind stay healthier. I can't say that enough. So that L is very important. And then you follow that with a letter V, and you say, okay, well, what's V? Well, remember I told you that people with resolve have a definite plan of action. That definite plan of action isn't just based upon hard facts, but it's also based upon a vision. Perhaps maybe you have put yourself what we call a mind circle together. This is like a mental picture of yourself. Here you are in the middle, and these are all the things that are coming out of it. And in them, there is your vision for yourself. In other words, what you hope to accomplish, what you see yourself accomplishing, but you have to visualize it. Vision is simply coupling your purpose and your mission with how you see yourself tomorrow, next week, next month, and next year, but never getting so far ahead of yourself that you're not focusing on who you are today, because vision is a two-way situation. Not only do you need to have vision, but you need to understand as you live that vision, you're casting it to other people, and hopefully what they see is something that will attract them to you. They want to have a vision of you as someone they can count on and believe in and respect. And no, not everybody's going to like you. That's also another topic that I'll talk about when it comes to understanding that you're not supposed to be liked by everybody, but it's okay. So being visionary is very, very important. Well, we've come down now to the last letter, and that is the letter E. We have two E's in resolve. The first one obviously is engage, and I'm engaging you today, by the way, using Facebook Live. But now, what is the final letter of resolve, the power word that I have for living? Again, it can be energy, excitement, execution. But for me, it's enthusiasm. 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 And I quote David James. And by the way, if you see me doing this, it's because it's funny how all of a sudden you feel like you're going to sneeze and you got to stifle that feeling. Enthusiasm. Somebody said, well, you don't know the problems I have. It's hard to get enthused. No, it's not. Enthusiasm is not about what's happening to you. Enthusiasm is a choice. And everything about resolve, resilience, engaging, serving, getting organized, having vision, being always in a mindset of learning, and having enthusiasm, they're all choices. They're choices. There are people who are watching me here. Not that many, but every single one of you, I know who you are. I've engaged with all of you. You are people that have also had a positive effect upon my life because I engaged with you. It makes me happy to know that these are people that are a part of my life that have been kind enough to let me be a part of theirs. And they've got their own lives to do as well. But in doing them, they want to go back to a place where they remember why they do what they do, because there's a calling involved there. And for that calling to be achieved, there has to be resolve. And resolve must require that we go about each and every single day with the following 7 behaviors. We must always remember that resilience is essential to getting up and getting going. We must engage every opportunity that we can, whether it be a person, place, or thing. These opportunities are important. So engage, engage, engage. Think of people in a service-minded attitude. Be service-connected. Be service-committed. And do so with a selfless attitude. Have that hunger to learn. To not let your brain languish, but rather to let it learn. And let that be a lifelong behavior. Then remember, there is nothing wrong with vision, for without vision people perish. And we don't want to perish because vision gives us hope, a promise, a future. And vision, I think, is something that God, the Creator, wants us to do, and I believe He gave it to us as a gift. And making that vision designed to make a better version of ourselves is the thing that we want to strive to do. And then, of course, we want to do everything that we can with the greatest amount of enthusiasm. And there are going to be bad days. I've had them. As I talk to you each and every day going forward, those of you that know me already know that a lot has happened since the beginning of January of 2018, when my wife and I adopted this word as our power word for the year, resolve. And then at the end of 2018, with the stories that I shared with you today, how we adopted the word as our power word for living. And now here I sit today, and it is still my power word for living, even more so than ever before, and even deeper ingrained because it is fixed. And I guess you could say it's hardwired into me. But oh, what has taken place since that time is stunning. Some would say it's been terrible. No, not really. The skills of resilience, engagement, service, organization, learning, being visionary, and having enthusiasm have helped me to realize that good things, bad things, and so-so things, and things that I miss, and things that I get, failures that I have, successes that I have, are all part of shaping me to be a person of resolve. A person with a definite plan of action, and a person with an attitude that anything is possible if you put your mind in the right place. But you must do that, and this is my final thought. You don't do it by thinking ahead. Yeah, plan, lay out plans, set goals, set objectives. But what's going on right now is going on. Are you living in the moment? Are you living in the moment with that mindset so that you can tap into and have experience with every possibility that's going to help you to accomplish your objectives, create new relationships, firm up what you do well, discard what you don't need, change your life to get better in every way, form, shape, or fashion, whether it's physically, whether it's mentally, whether it's socially, whether it's spiritually, whether it's educationally. You have now, and it's the last day of August. Tomorrow is September 1st, the final 4 months. It's football season too, by the way. You know how at the fourth quarter they bring up their fingers like this? Well, this is not the beginning of the fourth quarter, because the fourth quarter actually starts with October, November, and December. That's the last three. That's a quarter of the year. But for me, rather, tomorrow, September 1st, is the final four of the year, the last third, the best third ever. But you can't spend so much time thinking about those 4 months that you forget about what you're going to do. Today is Wednesday, September 31st. This is the day to think, what am I going to do today so that I can make today better for myself and better for the people that I come in contact with and for the people that I care about? What am I going to do to practice resolve? And if resolve is not the word you want, I challenge you, pick a power word, break it down, study it, apply it, and then let those traits become a part of how you do things. Because the truth is, we won't become the best version of ourselves unless we practice good habits. And if a power word helps you begin that process, and if a power word broken down into a mnemonic gives you traits to work that define that power word, then do it. I will join you again tomorrow by the grace of God. But for now, the day is still young. Congratulations on what you've already done today that you've been successful at. And congratulations for what you're going to do that is going to make the day even better. And most importantly, congratulations for the lives that you are going to touch and make a massive difference in. And so to all of you there that have joined me online, thank you. Share this around with people and invite them to watch for me again. I plan to be here. I plan to be here every day by the grace of God, at least for the next 77 days. This is day one. It begins, and you can begin too. John Morrow wishing you the best, thanking you for being my friends, thanking you for taking time to listen to me. I am long-winded, but I have something I feel is worth sharing, just as you have something worth sharing and being heard. Be blessed today. Until tomorrow, keep looking up and stay focused on making today the best day of your life.